After Gideon and his 300 troops had chased the Midianites across the Jordan River, they were exhausted. The town of Succoth was nearby, so he went there and asked, "Please give my troops some food. They are worn out, but we have to keep chasing Zebah and Zalmunna, the two Midianite kings." The town leaders of Succoth answered, "Why should we feed your army? We don't know if you really will defeat Zebah and Zalmunna." "Just wait," Gideon said. "After the Lord helps me defeat them, I'm coming back here. I'll make a whip out of thorns and rip the flesh from your bones." After leaving Succoth, Gideon went to Penuel and asked the leaders there for some food. But he got the same answer as he did at Succoth. "I'll come back safe and sound," Gideon said. "But when I do, I'm going to tear down your tower." Zebah and Zalmunna were in Karkor with an army of 15,000 troops. They were all that was left of the army of the eastern nations, because 120,000 of their warriors had been killed in the battle. Gideon reached the enemy camp by going east along Nomad Road, past Nobah and Jogbehah. He made a surprise attack, and the enemy panicked. Zebah and Zalmunna tried to escape, but Gideon chased and captured them. After the battle, Gideon set out for home. As he was going through Heres Pass, he caught a young man who lived in Succoth. Gideon asked him who the town officials of Succoth were, and the young man wrote down 77 names. Gideon went to the town officials and said, "Here are Zebah and Zalmunna. Remember how you made fun of me? You said, 'We don't know if you really will defeat those two Midianite kings, so why should we feed your worn-out army?'" Gideon made a whip from thorn plants and used it to beat the town officials. Afterwards he went to Penuel, where he tore down the tower and killed all the town officials. Then Gideon said, "Zebah and Zalmunna, tell me about the men you killed at Tabor." "They were a lot like you," the two kings answered. "They were dignified, almost like royalty." "They were my very own brothers," Gideon said. "I swear by the living Lord that if you had let them live, I would let you live." Gideon turned to Jether, his oldest son. "Kill them," Gideon said. But Jether was young and he was too afraid to even pull out his sword. "What's the matter, Gideon?" Zebah and Zalmunna asked. "Do it yourself if you're not too much of a coward." Gideon jumped up and killed them both. Then he took the gold ornaments from the necks of their camels. After the battle with the Midianites, the Israelites said, "Gideon, you rescued us. Now we want you to be our king. Then after your death, your son and then your grandson will rule." "No," Gideon replied. "I won't be your king, and my son won't be king either. Only the Lord is your ruler. But I will ask you to do one thing. Give me all the earrings you took from the enemy." The enemy soldiers had been Ishmaelites, and they wore gold earrings. The Israelite soldiers replied, "Of course we will give you the earrings." Then they spread out a robe on the ground and tossed the earrings on it. The total weight of this gold was nearly 20 kilograms. In addition, there was the gold from the camel's ornaments, and from the beautiful jewelry worn by the Midianite kings. Gideon also took their purple robes. Gideon returned to his home in Ophrah, and had the gold made into a statue, which the Israelites soon started worshipping. They were unfaithful to God, and even Gideon and his family were trapped into worshipping the statue. The Midianites had been defeated so badly that they were no longer strong enough to attack Israel, and so Israel was at peace for the remaining 40 years of Gideon's life. Gideon had many wives and 70 sons. He even had a wife who lived at Shechem. They had a son, and Gideon named him Abimelech. Gideon lived to be an old man, and when he died, he was buried in the family tomb in his hometown of Ophrah, which belonged to the Abiezer clan. Soon after Gideon's death, the Israelites turned their backs on God again. They set up idols of Baal and worshipped Baal-berith as their god. The Israelites forgot that the Lord was their God, and that he had rescued them from the enemies who lived around them. Besides all that, the Israelites were unkind to Gideon's family, even though Gideon had done so much for Israel. Abimelech. Abimelech was one of Gideon's sons, but his mother was a concubine from Shechem. Wanting to become the ruler, Abimelech went to his mother's relatives in Shechem and asked them whether they'd rather be ruled by all 70 of Gideon's sons or just him, since he was their own flesh and blood. The people of Shechem agreed to support him and gave him 70 pieces of silver from the temple of their god Baal-berith. Abimelech used the money to hire a group of reckless and violent men who followed him. Together they went to Ophrah, Gideon's hometown, and killed his 70 brothers on one stone. Only the youngest brother Jotham escaped by hiding. After this, the people of Shechem and Beth Millo gathered and made Abimelech king near the great tree at Shechem. When Jotham heard about it, he climbed Mount Gerizim and shouted a story to warn the people. He told a parable about trees looking for a king. Jotham explained that if the people had acted honestly in choosing Abimelech, then things would go well. But if they had acted wrongly, then Abimelech would destroy them, and they would destroy him. After speaking, Jotham ran away and lived in hiding for fear of Abimelech. Abimelech ruled Israel for 3 years, but God sent trouble between Abimelech and the leaders of Shechem, causing them to turn against each other. This happened because God wanted to punish Abimelech for killing his brothers, and the people of Shechem for helping him. The leaders of Shechem began to set up ambushes on the mountain roads to rob and attack people, spreading unrest in the region. Around that time, a man named Gal and his family moved into Shechem. The people trusted him, and during a festival in the temple of their god, they got drunk and started speaking against Abimelech. Gal bragged that he could defeat Abimelech and asked why they should serve him at all. Zebul, the ruler of the city who supported Abimelech, secretly sent messengers to warn Abimelech about Gal's plans. Abimelech came by night with his men and set an ambush around the city. When Gal went out the next morning and saw people on the hills, Zebul pretended they were just shadows. But as more soldiers appeared, Zebul told Gal to go fight if he was truly so confident. Gal and his men went out to fight Abimelech, but were defeated and chased back to the city. Zebul drove Gal and his relatives out of Shechem. The next day, people from Shechem went out to work in the fields, and Abimelech attacked them. He divided his men into 3 groups and ambushed the people in the fields, killing many. Then he captured the city, killed the people, tore down the city, and scattered salt over it to keep anything from growing there. Some of the leaders of Shechem took refuge in the strong tower of the temple of Baal-berith. When Abimelech found out, he gathered wood and told his men to pile it around the tower and set it on fire. About 1,000 men and women inside the tower died in the flames. After this, Abimelech went to Thebez and captured it, but the people there also ran into a strong tower. When Abimelech approached the door to set it on fire, a woman dropped a heavy millstone from the tower, crushing his skull. Realizing he was dying and not wanting people to say he was killed by a woman, Abimelech called his armor-bearer and ordered him to kill him with a sword. So the young man killed him, and Abimelech died. When the Israelites saw that Abimelech was dead, they all went home. God punished Abimelech for the evil he had done to his brothers, and also punished the people of Shechem for their own wickedness, fulfilling Jotham's warning. Tola.